All right, let's talk about something we've all felt, the psychology of indecision. That feeling of being completely and totally frozen by choice. It's something we all go through, but as we're about to find out, it's something we deeply, deeply misunderstand. I mean, have you ever felt completely stuck? Like choosing a movie, what to eat for dinner, or even just what to say in a conversation? You just freeze up. It feels like any move you make could be the wrong one. It is so frustrating, right? And trust me, it's way more common than you think. Well, that feeling, it actually has a name: analysis paralysis. It's what happens when your brain gets so fixated on every single possible bad outcome that you just stop. You can't move. But the real question is, why? Why does our brain do this to us? That's exactly what we're going to unpack. So we're going to dive into this paralysis of choice. And what you're about to see is that this isn't some personal failing. Not at all. It's actually your brain working in overdrive, trying its best to protect you. And check this out. This is such a powerful way to reframe it. We tend to think of indecision as a weakness, right? Like you're just being wishy-washy. But what if it's something way more complex? Psychology actually suggests it's this sophisticated, deep-seated survival instinct. It's your brain's attempt to keep you safe in a world that feels really unpredictable. So let's get into exactly how this whole defense mechanism works. It all comes down to this process that your brain is running all the time, just under the surface. It's a process called predictive processing. Okay, so imagine your brain is this super powerful prediction machine. It's not just trying to pick a path. Oh no, it's frantically trying to simulate every single possible path, replaying every potential mistake, every negative outcome, all to try and stay one step ahead of any danger. But here's the catch. This deep-seated need for control, this intense desire to predict and manage every little thing, it backfires. Big time. Instead of making you feel prepared, you just end up feeling completely overwhelmed by this endless flood of what-ifs. So, that feeling of being overwhelmed, it isn't random. It's actually being driven by a few key psychological factors. Let's break down the 3 hidden reasons your brain gets stuck in this crazy protective loop. So we've got the perfectionist shield, the anxious mind, and the drained battery. Let's tackle these one by one. Okay, so the first reason is that indecision often works as this really powerful form of self-protection. It's like a shield that your brain literally builds out of your past experiences. And there's a really clear connection here. Think about it. If you grew up in an environment where you were criticized a lot more than you were supported, you learned pretty quick that making the wrong choice could lead to blame or shame or pain. So what does your brain do? It develops this perfectionist shield, where it's constantly searching for the one single option that is 100% safe from any criticism. And that's the logic it runs on, right? When your brain sees a potential risk in every single option on the table, well, making no decision at all suddenly starts to feel like the safest choice. Staying stuck feels a whole lot better than the possibility of being wrong. Okay, reason number 2 kind of builds on this. Indecision can also come from a fundamental distrust of your own gut feeling, your own instincts, that inner voice. And this distrust, it shows up in a few key ways. First, there's rumination. When you just replay choices over and over and over in your head. Then you start to hyperfocus on how other people might react to your decision. And finally, you find yourself constantly seeking external validation, asking friends, family, pretty much anyone, just hoping somebody else can give you that certainty you can't find inside yourself. And finally, the third reason. This one might be the simplest, but it is incredibly powerful. Sometimes your brain is just plain tired. It's out of energy. I want you to think about your mental focus just like a phone battery. At the start of the day, you're at 100%. You're fully charged, you're ready to tackle complex problems and make clear-headed decisions. But as the day goes on, every single choice you make, big ones, small ones, it doesn't matter. It drains that battery. This is a real thing. It's called decision fatigue. So by the end of the day, when your mental battery is blinking red at 5%, even a simple task like, what's for dinner, feels totally impossible. Your brain just wants out. Now, I know, hearing all this might feel a little heavy, but the really good news is that understanding why this happens is the first step to actually changing the pattern. So let's talk about how you can start to escape this loop. And here is the most important thing I want you to take away. These are learned patterns. And because they were learned, that means they can be unlearned. You can actually retrain your brain to feel safer and more confident when you're making choices.
And you can start really small. First, try to shrink the mountain. Reframe a huge, terrifying decision into one tiny, manageable first step. Second, set a 2-minute timer for really low-stakes choices, like what to watch on TV or what to wear. All this does is prove to your brain that the world doesn't end if a choice isn't perfect, and that builds confidence and momentum.
So let's bring all this home. Let's look at the bigger picture of what your brain is actually trying to do with all this indecisive chaos. If you've spent your life feeling stuck and indecisive, please hear this. You are not broken. Your brain is not flawed. Always remember this. Your indecision is a survival mechanism. It is a sign of a brain that is trying incredibly hard to protect you from what it thinks are real threats based on everything it's learned. You could say it's a feature, not a bug. So the next time you feel that paralysis creeping in, I want you to ask yourself this question. What if this feeling isn't a weakness at all? What if it's just a sign of a brain that's doing its most fundamental job, trying its absolute best to keep you safe? Seriously, changing that one perspective can change everything.